Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to an introductory session for our course 3, Design Perspectives of Urban Spaces. And I would like to welcome our guest mentors, Gaurabdas Mahapatra sir and Komiyama ma'am. Komiyama ma'am has done her Bachelor's of Engineering from the field of Social Environmental Engineering at the School of Engineering from Hokkaido University. And she is presently a postgraduate student in Division of Architectural and Structural Design at the Graduate School of Engineering, Hokkaido University. And her area of interest are living environment and the activities involved with it. Now let us welcome Gaurav sir. Architect Gaurabdas Mahapatra is presently placed as a PhD scholar in the Laboratory of Architectural Planning in Hokkaido University, Japan. In 2019, he was the recipient of prestigious Next Scholarship in the field of architecture. He is having a degree of M Plan Dual Gold from SPA Bhopal and B Arc First Plan from BPUT Odisha. Prior to doctoral studies, architect Mahapatra was working as an urban planner with Andhra Pradesh Urban Finance and Infrastructure Development uh, Corporation and as an assistant professor in School of Architecture from Geetham University, Visakhapatnam, India, respectively. He is also the life member of INTACT besides being the associate member in ITPI, FSI, and IID, respectively. Architect Mahapatra is the co-author of the book Reinventing Urban Spaces by Accessing Accessibility in Old City Core, a city of Kolkata, and reinterpreting urban fabric in cities with living heritage, a case of central Kolkata. He has more than 20 publications to his credit in national and international platforms. Most of his research revolves around accessibility in old cities, having spoken on numerous international and national platforms in the domain of universal and accessibility. He represents the young crowd of Indian contemporary architecture and planning who always aims towards ingenuity in design and believes in creating a symbiotic relationship between academics and profession. Now, I would like to hand over the mic to the guest mentors and we shall proceed with the introductory session. Thank you.
Can I share my screen? And could you close your... Thank you. Just a moment. So, good afternoon, everyone. Maybe good morning in India. First of all, let me thank you all for coming here today. I will talk about 3 topics: self-introduction, and my what is architecture to me, and the contents in the final course. So let's start. My name is Aoi Komiyama, and I am a graduate school student in architecture at Hokkaido University, Japan. Now I'm majoring in architecture and planning and studying about spaces for human behavior and their psychology. I'm also interested in how people living and utilizing the environment. Also, how people are acting there and how people can be more activated. To talk about myself, I will introduce you a little bit about my graduation design, which I designed when I was in bachelor. This is my graduation design. I reorganized a school and shopping district in Japan. I designed this building to be a clue of people's activities, not to decide where to study, where to eat, and where to play. And this is my theme as one who studies architecture and planning. So, よろしくお願いします。Nice to meet you. So let's go to the next topic. Okay, so what is architecture to me? So first, I want to introduce a temple in Japan. This is Byodo-in Ho-Odo, the Phoenix Hall of Byodo-in. It's a temple in Kyoto. And this is the architect that I was impressed by the power of architecture. Here is the inside and the statue. The inside is a little dark, except for the statue. There is a window and the lights coming down to the statue. This makes an impressive experience. That architecture can change people's activities and experience. I believe adapting and maintaining the environment themselves are important for people to live much more comfortable over there. To let people generate activities, the architecture is the only clue. Spaces which have options are important, and users choose a space adapting to their activities. I introduce a quote of Young Girl. Only architecture that considers human scale and interaction is successful architecture. So this is the final part of my introduction. Contents of the final course. So in the final course, I would like to give a presentation about my research. As you can see on the screen, our topic will be analysis of utilizing resources in urban space for various activities during a walk. I will explain the details in my presentation next month, but utilizing resources are kind of environment people use in their activities. So here's the content. I will talk about the background, purpose, and research method of the study. And I divided my analysis into two parts, resources and utilizing. After my conclusion, I want to have some discussion with you about my study theme. So, in recent years, more people in Japan have taken walks livelier for health and to refresh. They adapt to the city's environment as they like. And from the viewpoint of work, the possibility of unnoticed utilization of urban resources can be considered. I'm going to introduce my study briefly. The features of resources utilized in walking activities are analyzed by focusing on its environment and the walker's activity itself. The purpose of this study is finding the potential of city environment for people's activities. And it is important to have an environment people can be active in their living neighborhood. So in this study, those spaces and environment utilized by urban people are defined as resources. So I'm looking forward to share my thoughts in next month. So thank you. And
thank you. Now I will share my screen and okay. So hello everybody. Good morning. My name is Gaurabdas Mahapatra. So today I will be giving a brief introduction about myself, my perception about architecture, and also a brief about the course that Studio Sakha has been most kindly planned for the benefit of the students of architecture fraternity of the student across the globe. So I'll start my topic with this quote: "How a society treats its disabled is the true measure of a civilization," as said by Chen Guangcheng. And if this is the measure of a civilization, then all of us should agree that we are still not civilized. Technically, we are civilized, but socially, we might not be civilized. So about me, so I have, as already discussed by Ms. Sakshi in the introduction, I completed my BArch, then I was working as a consultant, and then I was working as an assistant professor part-time. Then I completed my master's. Then I worked as urban planner, then went back into full-time teaching, and then finally finally I got the MEC scholarship, which is the Monbu Kagakusho scholarship for higher studies in Japan. And presently I'm a part of the Laboratory of Architectural Planning under the guidance of Professor Dr. Suguru Mori. And also I have this book, which is also available in Amazon, which gives a glimpse about my research area in the central part of Calcutta. Now, what is architecture to me? See, architecture, everybody perceives architecture in different way. For me, I will show you 3 examples how I get inspired. The first one is a quote by Tada Wando, which says, I believe that the way people can be directed a little by architecture. Now, it is up to you, the person who is on the driver's seat, that is the architect or the designer or the planner, how little is my domain of work. That you have to decide, we have to decide how little should be our contribution, that it will have a huge impact on the people's life. So this is one of the important things which I follow. Next, this is one of my most favorite person, Jeffrey Bawa. So architect Jeffrey Bawa said, architecture cannot be totally explained, but may be experienced. So experience, again, it's entirely personal. How am I going to create that experience for the people so that my architecture becomes meaningful? And the third one, whom I really admire, is architect Louis I. Kahn. He says, a great building must begin with the unmeasurable, must go through measurable means, and when it is being designed, and in the end, must be unmeasurable. So unmeasure, if we want to make something which cannot be measured, first we have to understand the parameters of measurement, which are the skills of an architect. So it is very, very personal. So, and I have been fortunate enough to go personally and visit the works of all 3 of these architects, and it has have a huge influence on me. Now, coming slowly to the course contents of the final course, which we are planning in the next month, which will be shortly intimated to all of you. So basically, my course is related to universal design, and I have divided it into 2 parts. First is the understanding, and second part is the application. I will not go into the depth, but basically, we will be discussing about the guidelines, about the concept of universal design, some examples of universal design in planning and architecture, elderly friendly approaches, how anthropometry could be understood or re-understood in the light of universal design, some of the examples of assistive technology, how academics can help in promoting universal design, what is the difference between universal design, barrier-free architecture, and inclusive design. So a lot of things we will discuss, and in the end, we will also discuss a little bit about disability inclusive response to COVID-19, since this is a present topic. So in the part 1, I will not explain everything, just a small glimpse. See, from early civilization, differently abled people have been subjected to a lot of torture. They have been forced to beg with a cap in their hand. People say that the term handicap came from that. They were whipped, chained. In the Middle Ages, they were also put into boiling water, really. And then there was Charles Darwin, who gave the theory, and it also led to many complexities. In fact, this book by Binding and Hore, this book directly does not say about discrimination, but it has a long impact, since this book also influenced Hitler to do what he had done later. Finally, however, the term handicap was very common. Later on, this term got changed or replaced with differently abled and disabled and a lot of things. But are we in the position to understand the social norms and thereby do have the same implication in the design domain? We have to question ourselves. In the part 2, basically there is some examples I can show you. I'll just show you this example from the city where presently I am. This is a city from, no, I'll not show the video now. Yeah. If you can see the picture on the right, I have highlighted certain points, and these are the things which at city level can be considered as a good example of universal design. Flushed curbs so that a wheelchair or a cycle can go easily. Tactile marking, of course. Street furniture situated away from the line of movement. Great change of grading in order for the people with visual problems to understand the change in tactile marking when there is an obstacle ahead. Signages, proper signages on and off the street. Good curb. Some kind of street sculpture which helps in cognition. Manholes away from the line. Graded manholes totally away from the pedestrian line, and proper pathways. So basically, if you attend this course, what we can assure you that you will be able to learn these 5 major things. One is understanding the best practices in universal design. Second, how to integrate technology and space in order to make it more facilitating to the people, users. Next, accessibility in both outdoor, that is external and indoor environment, and identifying the specific role in imparting accessibility, because it is a very broad domain. You have to understand what is your role. And then you can also understand the city-specific assessment by understanding accessibility audit. So that's it in brief. I encourage all of you to join the full course and get in touch with Mr. Sandeep. So I'll stop my screen and over to you, Mr. Sandeep.
Yeah, I'm first of all very happy that both of you got agreed for the interesting initiative we are taking at Sakha. So we are actually moving a little ahead of our responsibilities, and we think that the way projects we are catering to the projects. Similarly, we believe that the student fraternity also belongs to us, and we need a responsible uh, undertaking, or we need a responsible job for them. So we are trying our bit, and we have started this series called as Summer Studio. We started this in 2018, and since then it has been a very successful series, and in which we have been doing many courses. Especially we are doing some courses on heritage mapping, heritage documentation. Then we are doing certain courses on majorly about the universal accessibility, the urban spaces. And last year, I remember there was a wonderful course taken by architect Simranpreet Kaur on urban spaces, and it was a very interesting course then. And also we are doing some little courses on various other aspects. For example, the geography behind the history. We remember we did a course with Professor Dr. P.B. Rana Singh. Also, we had an interesting course on universal accessibility with Dr. Professor Rachna Khare herself, and of course with Professor Gaurabdas Mahapatra. So it was a wonderful and successful series. And I must remember the last two courses we had with various architects and planners across various countries. For example, we had Imogen from Fiji, we had Liu Pochun from Taiwan, we had Leo Yon from Guatemala. Also, we had Chua Hong Lau from Cambodia, and we had two more mentors from India, that was Meenal Singh and Pranshi Jain. Also, now it has been a wonderful time where we are moving to a different kind of course, which is a design perspective in urban spaces. So I think just with the brief introduction, I have certain questions which has come to me from students about the course. So it will be really interesting if both of you will answer them. So can you just try to answer these courses? It will be really interesting. Yeah. So the first course is there is a student who is asking this, that why we need to have a perspective when it comes about designing or planning the urban spaces. So any one of you can take this question and we can start with the discussion.
Yeah, there's a very fundamental question actually. Good question. Basically, first of all, we need to understand what is the meaning of perspective. Perspective means developing certain viewpoints. Now, why we need to develop a perspective is, when we are studying architecture or we are practicing, nobody can claim that I know everything about architecture. I can only enhance my output towards the betterment of the spatial planning by developing perspectives, by hearing from different people what are their perspectives, how they have successfully implemented them in the space. Thereby I can develop my own logic, which will be much more strengthened. having said that Having said that, this course itself will not make you not give you the ultimate understanding of perspective. It will give you a perspective or perspectives, one or two or three or four perspectives. Once you understand how to gather the perspective, you will be more receptive towards taking up ideas from everybody. I think that's the key.
Truly. So, Komiyama, your take on this, that why we need to have any perspective, or maybe while designing urban spaces or urban forms.
Yeah, I agree with that, what Gaurav said. And right, I think it is important to have different perspectives and understand many perspectives, because maybe urban spaces are used by many people, not only designers, but also citizens and other people. So it is important to understand different perspectives. And yeah, I think.
Truly, I mean, I would just like to add this a little bit into this, that we all are from a architectural or planning design fraternity, and I believe we recently Gaurabdas has just taken name of these three architects, and I was just remembering when he said architect one like Jeffrey Bawa, the other architects. The moment we take their name, their style, their buildings, their philosophy, their thought process, it appears in front of us. Now, we believe like architecture students or maybe the planning students should actually be a little bit more individualistic. Why there is a need of being individualistic is because the way Gaurabda told about the logic, about the tactics, about the philosophy, about all these things which will be somewhere coming in and building the kind of architecture we are looking for. And we are in the field which is very fresh. I mean, this is a field which is never this is never outdated. So, houses were built even in 16th century, houses were built even in 5th century. Maybe before that also houses were built. But the technology, but the philosophy, but the material understanding, this is how it was introduced by certain individual architects. Maybe in 5th century, maybe in 16th century, maybe in now 21st century. So this is how the entire understanding of architecture and individuality in architecture remains very significant for the students. So that is interesting, both of you. Uh, Gorda, there is these days we are seeing a lot of drift, a lot of change when we are talking about urban spaces. So I think nobody have ever thought that someday the urban spaces we look forward will be vacant over the night, over the period of time. So recently, the entire world has witnessed the lockdown, and in that particular lockdown, we saw how weird these spaces were looking. Of course, why I'm using this word weird, because we often have seen these places or spaces as filled with people performing various activities. Maybe a resident of that space, maybe a tourist of for that space, maybe a person who may not be there for any other reason. I mean, just for some time, and that person will vanish. So we have seen this in various photographs. So if you talk about Rome, if you talk about Venice, if you talk about New Delhi, Chandni Chowk, if you talk about Mumbai, all these cities which are known for its public activity and urban spaces suddenly became vacant. So I'm really happy that you have added the unit of pandemic, post-pandemic, and pandemic-related studies to this course. And this is what we are going to need, because I think this is still not there in many of the architectural curriculums in the colleges. So, the entire agenda of bringing these people here for you is to bring you something which is not being served in your regular curriculum. So that's how we are trying to do. So Gaurav, just a small take. I want to ask what made you synthesize, what made you think about the pandemic approach towards urban design and urban spaces? Of course, I'm not the expert for it, but I would really happy because you have added this into the curriculum, so it is important. Also, we will come to you, Komiyama, after this. Yes.
Basically, why I have added this in, if you just go through the reports of the during the pandemic, there has been many cases of physical and mental torture upon the people who are differently able during coronavirus pandemic, and especially in the public spaces and also in the closed spaces, there has been many instances. Also, when there is a, for example, during the COVID-19 lockdown, it is already difficult for the people who are able-bodied to function properly. Just understand the condition of the people who are differently able with some certain functional limitation. If the society or the infrastructural part of the society is not universally designed, it becomes very difficult for them to function, especially during the coronavirus time. So I thought that this will be one of the ways to input this. And I think after the course, we can also get a lot of ideas from the students, because they can come up with a number of ideas about this.
Wonderful. Also, I have just received a question from just sorry. We will go to Komiyama. Komiyama, please. Yeah, excuse me, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I was just reading that question, so it is very interesting. Yeah, tell me.
During COVID-19, Japan, there are many limitations for using. There are many limitations to keep distance and stop them to use some public spaces. But but sometimes it doesn't make sense. So yeah, I think it was important to think what we do and how people react or use that hour. Yeah. Sorry, I can't explain well.
Yeah. So we really want to know from your side that how are the Japanese approach towards urban designing and urban spaces? Like, what is Japanese perspective of towards the urban space? Yes. Like when it comes to design or plan a urban space, what is a kind of perspective Japanese as a countryman have towards the urban spaces, and how it is little different than world?
You mean that Japanese people, how Japanese people
Yes.
think about urban space
Yes.
during COVID-19?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
You can say in general also, not a problem. Yeah.
I take a walk as my study, and yeah, it is said that more people go out and take a walk because they can't go to some shopping mall or game center, or so they go public spaces and outside public spaces. But I don't think that is true. And I think some people start working after COVID and during COVID-19, but I think most of Japanese people's don't change their activity or some using of urban spaces. Gaurabdas, do you have any opinion
Okay.
or?
Yeah, I think
Okay. So
actually there is
majorly, I think.
one major difference between the public spaces in Japan and public. If you just I cannot compare with other countries, but if you just take a comparative analysis between India and Japan, actually you will be surprised to note that in this particular city, since the corona lockdown, there has been no lockdown. Can you believe it?
Okay.
There has been no
Interesting.
lockdown since coronavirus has affected, because the awareness component within the public is very, very high. Because usually when even if there is no pandemic or something in Japan, most of the people wear mask. That's a common practice. Many people, especially in the cities like Tokyo, etc. And regarding their public spaces, since the population is not as high as countries like India, it is little bit easier, what I personally feel. But the major challenge over here is, since the huge percentage of the people are elderly, it poses a major threat to the infrastructure, which in India we don't have to face this till now. So there are some pros and cons, but yes, the genre is completely different.
Interesting. So that is interesting to know, because see, this is the amazing part of the course, that you have one mentor from Japan, one mentor from India, and majorly we are going to talk about the urban. See, we all have been taught so many urban spaces about from Europe, Britain, and many other parts of America or those parts. But this is an interesting course where we will be talking more about Asian, more about our own urban spaces. So that's to make it more regional and more closer to. That's why we had these two interesting mentors. One is an urban planner and another one is an architect plus engineer. So this is very interesting way of looking into two different countries by two different mentors and about one single course. So that is interesting. Gaurav, here's a question about which says that how you see the career as a urban planner or urban designer. I mean, this is have been asked by a fourth year student of mine. She is saying that how you see the career of urban planner and urban designer in India specifically. So, and she also asked that is it good to study from India or study from abroad about this? I mean, hey, this is about the course, the degree course.
Yeah, no, actually, if you I taking a master's course is totally a personal choice, first of all. But if you ask me, my main reason why I went into urban planning is because my graduation thesis was on housing, and I tried to do some kind of a planning project. And then I thought that urban planning will be the best option for me, because in India, if you want to practice, then it is mandatory to have a COA license. And also, if you complete your planning, you will get a license from ITPI. So frankly speaking, the scope of getting jobs or the scope of getting exposure becomes more if you are having licenses from two different domains. And urban design, of course, urban design is a create of everything is there are two components. One is the creativity and a rationality. I personally, I will not tell that urban designers are not rational or something, or urban planners are not creative, but the creativity component in urban design is much more, and the rationality component in the urban planning is much more. And regarding her second question, that is to study in India or abroad, it is very good if you see, first of all, if you are getting in good universities in India, very well, you can go and study. SPA or CEPT or IIT or NIT. But if you are getting a chance to study abroad and you don't have any financial obligation, and the course is of 2 years, masters, then of course you should. Why not explore the other context?
Truly. So I hope that answers your question. Uh, so I think these are some small little questions which has come to us. We have also encouraged students to send more and more questions, maybe on the Facebook chat right now or maybe somewhere else. So let us. This is something. Okay, this is not. So these were the set of questions which has come to us. Anything you want to add? Both of you want to do some little discussion about? We'll just make one interesting, just a short sentence like about why you should join this course. A short sentence, a one sentence. Each mentor can say, and then we can move to the conclusion part and conclusion discussions. So we can start with Komiyama, or should we start? Komiyama, can you start? Just
Yes.
one why this course, and just a one liner or a short sentence which will be significant for students. Please go.
Mm, I think this the most interesting point of this course is that you can listen many topics and from other countries, and yeah, so that is the most interesting point. Yeah, and this is also why I joined as a mentor. Yes.
We are glad. We are glad. Yeah. Gaurav, you want to add anything?
Yeah. So why you should join the course? First of all, you should join the course because it is organized by architect Sandeep Pate. I think it's enough. but on I mean, frankly speaking, the first of all, the type of courses that has been taken up by you in the last few years and last few weeks also, this type of course is not in the syllabus. It is very important. This
Surely.
type of course is not in the syllabus. So what is not in the syllabus and will help you to develop a new perspective should always be welcomed by students of architecture. That is the way
Surely.
you will learn. I think that's my point.
So that is interesting. I hope more and more students join us. The course dates we will be putting soon, and it is scheduled in August month, and we are going to share the dates. So for that, please be connected to our Instagram, Facebook, and all other pages. So we will be shortly introducing the posters there. Okay, so we can move to the conclusion part now, and we can discuss that we have now discussed how, largely this will benefit to student as other than so we can just understand the learning practices, some learning practices between India and Japan, and we can just conclude discussing this. The learning practices in India and Japan. Why I was interested in having Komiyama here with us, because there are many interesting discussions me, Gaurabda, Komiyama, and our past few mentors we had about the teaching practices in India and abroad about architecture. So I think all we need to conclude is see, we are trying to get a new way of learning architecture, and it is now on your mobile screens. So it is very easy. So you just have to register for the course, then they be there with us for 2 hour session, and it will be a 3 or 4 day session, and it will give you a certificate signed by Komiyama and Gauravda, so that you will have a added allied kind of studies about a course into urban design, planning, and universal design aspects. Also, we have now added the pandemic studies to this. So it becomes very important for you as a professional, because all these small little courses which you are doing is trying to give you add certain feathers on your cap, And when you are working into public sectors, so this small little courses becomes very important and very significant. So we will just conclude discussing about the learning practices in India and Japan, and why this course we are going to bring those learning practices for you. So please stay tuned with us. The course details will be soon coming on our Facebook and Instagram pages. So be connected with Studio Saka. So Gaurabda, we can start with you. And because you are now there, right now you have went to Japan for your PhD studies. So how what kind of change you feel? I mean, this is just the back. Few years back, we were sharing the tiffins, maybe 5 years back, there in the SPA Bhopal, and now you are there in Japan. So I think after 5 years, how it becomes, how it is, what it feels to become a student in Japan, like about learning architecture.
No, actually, I mean, everywhere the dedication is always the same, but I found a very different teaching methodology from India and Japan. Now, first of all, here the regular written exams in masters and PhD is not there. There are no written exams, but there is a catch to it. There is no written exam does not mean that there are no studies. So basically, what you have to do every week, you have to submit some assignment, some presentation. So basically, you're tied up the whole week. It's not like studying for the exams. So this is one type of thing. Secondly, the teaching methodology, it's not direct, like there is no one who is teaching directly that this is the concept, this no. The teaching methodology is much more applicative, and it is the ball is in your court, like how much you want to play. Of course, assistance is always there, and also the laboratory mechanism is completely different from India. For example, in our laboratory, we have, like, I am a doctoral student, Komiyama-san is a master's second year student. There are students from master's first year, there are students from bachelor final year. So we are a group, maybe 20-25 people. We sit together, not every day, but the space is there to sit together. So that is the way in which the ideas get exchanged vertically. Similarly, like in India, we sit with seniors informally. This is formalized. So
Wonderful.
every lab is having this kind of composition. There are 5 labs, 5 into 20-25. So this is the type of composition. So yeah, this is the thing.
Interesting. This is interesting. Very interesting. So that is interesting, Gaurav, that the formal and informal. Now, this is in India. I remember I myself have learned so many things from my senior in his hostel or in his, rooms. And right from how to read a book in architecture. I mean, that is what, if I remember, my senior Darshan sir, he have taught me that how to read a book in architecture. Now, this is very small thing, reading a book in architecture, but it leads to a significant change in the life of a student of architecture. So it is interesting. I mean, this is how we exchange and learn. And if it is happening in formal way at Japanese institute, so it is wonderful. And I think we should take a lessons from them for Indian architecture studies. Wonderful. So just we will just we can wrap up this one if both of you want to add anything, or else we will wrap up the live session, because the live session was majorly about what we are learning and why we are learning, and what it will lead as a person, as an architect, as a planner, as an urban designer, in the career prospect. So we are trying to talk about that. And this series is going to last long now, because we have added few more interesting international speakers to our mentor list. And I'm really thankful to right now to Komiyama-san and Gaurabdas Mahapatra to be with us. Uh, so we can just wrap up. If last line, if you want to add, both of you. I think if you want to add about the course. No?
Yeah, I would just request everyone to join the course, and hopefully you'll be having a good learning session. That's it.
Wonderful. Komiyama?
Yes, I'm looking forward to discuss with everyone.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining us here in the Saturday morning session. We are going to introduce the course timeline, course dates in the coming few more days. Just stay tuned with our channel. Also, most important is to, I if you see any architect, if you see any designer, and if you want to become like him or her, first of all, don't become like him or her, become yourself. And how they have become that individual, it is only by doing more than the college. So, I have seen many architects, heard many architects, they keep on saying that they were working in certain offices after the college time. They were going to certain institutes after the college timing. So now when you are at your home and doing the online studies, this is a wonderful opportunity to go and learn from the mentors across India and to understand what is architecture also, which will help you to be an architect. And it is important to how an architect should be, what are the do's and don'ts and says and say not. I mean, there is no book which will say that particular architecture should do these things, on these things may not be done by an architect. So it is you which is deciding that. So it is you where you are putting your limits. It is you where you are crossing the limits. So I think this is most important. And whoever is the legend architect, whoever you follow, that particular person has crossed many limits which were portrayed by them in the educational background. So I'm not saying that curriculum is not going to help you. It is the base of architecture, but the special courses designed by the mentors on their own, and which you will definitely find here on our portal, is being most important. And these are most important courses which you may not find in some other platforms. So just be with us, join the course, and it will be a wonderful learning experience with Professor Gaurabdas, also architect Komiyama, and the team of Studio Saka. So with this, I just want to say a final goodbye to all of you. And we are there. You can reach to us by emails and by phone calls. Please be connected. We will let you know uh, when we are going to the announce the course. So we are announcing the course very soon. Stay tuned with Studio 7.